Hi, this is James from Appetite for Production podcast, and this is BUTCH VIG Drums. This contact instrument lets you quickly lay down production-ready drum tracks that are heavily processed for a modern sound and created by a true master of both drums and production. You can play BUTCH VIG drums using your own MIDI in octaves 1 and 2, which you can see happening on the 16-pad display as well. And you can use MIDI octaves 3 and 4 to trigger entire patterns at the tempo of your DAW project. There are also knobs along the bottom that we can use to quickly change the characteristics of any preset kit. These remain at the bottom of the interface, whatever page you're on. In the pattern page, you can see exactly what's happening with those built-in MIDI grooves. Each note triggers a preset pattern, and those patterns play as loops. You can go half time or double time with them too. You can even drag each one out into your DAW to change and tweak. If you select a new pattern before your current pattern has finished playing, by default the next pattern will start from the start. If we switch on the latch setting though, each new pattern will pick up where the last pattern left off, keeping everything in time with the DAW project. You have to be playing back your DAW for the latch operation to work properly. First of all, let's check out the sound sources in the kit page. Click a pad to select that element of the kit, or activate the MIDI switch to select it using MIDI notes. You can mute and solo different kit elements from the pads as well. As you can hear on this crash cymbal sample, basic sampling controls here include pitch, volume, and pan for the sample, plus filtering, velocity response curve, and envelope controls. You can reset any control to its default by control clicking or command clicking. You can actually completely replace the sample by clicking its waveform and choosing another one from the browser. Doing this won't reset your sampler controls. You can add insert effects and send effects for each kit element here too. For example, we could add some distortion to just the snare, and maybe some tape saturation after that. And we can move the effects ordering using the drag handles. You can press edit to temporarily bring up the effects screen to edit parameters in depth. But for now, let's just go there directly by clicking on the FX tab. If we have the same snare sound selected, we can still see the same distortion and tape saturation effects that we added just now. For the insert effects slots, you get a lineup of 4 effects from a choice of 31, some of which are pulled from other Native Instruments plugins. Again, we can select another kit piece using the 16 pads, or trigger the selection using MIDI. In the Effects page's Global Effects tab, we can apply processing to the entire sound as a whole. This is a new trick for Kontakt using the new version 6.4's main bus. Using the Lo-Fi effect, we can reduce the sample rate and bit depth, add a bit of noise, and change the signal with the color control. Kontakt 6.4 also adds in the Supercharger GT effect, which we can access here to compress and distort the sound. There's also a new limiter, which works well as part of the Global Effects tab, doing its thing over all the sounds together. We can bypass any effect using its power button, and there's even a power button for the entire effects chain. There are also 2 send effect slots, with a choice of 6 delay and reverb effects to go in there. Back on the kit page, you can route individual pieces to these send effects by varying amounts to get exactly the feel you want. On the macros page, we can take a look behind the front panel to see how those 8 knobs along the bottom are hooked up for any given patch. Each of the first 6 knobs has a corresponding tab along the top, letting you edit how it works. Let's check out the warmth macro, which takes control over 2 parameters, the Lo-Fi tape's color control and the tape saturator's warmth control. If we go and look at the Lo-Fi effect, we can see the macro taking command over the color control. Now if we check out the tape saturator, the warmth control is also connected to the same macro. We could assign the warmth macro to another parameter by clicking its green light and then clicking the parameter we want. Now we have 3 controls commanded by this one knob, which is visible from any page of the interface. You can assign up to 24 routings to a single macro control. We can choose the range of the macro's effect on any parameter, setting where the parameter will be when the macro is at its minimum and its maximum. And we can use this to invert the movement so the parameter moves down as the macro moves up. We can even define a custom movement between minimum and maximum for a single routing, with preset shapes to choose from too. Finally, down at the bottom right, the Tune control lets you bring the tuning of all the samples in your kit, drums and cymbals, up or down. You can set this to be a continuous control for fine tuning, or a stepped control to tune in semitones. And right at the end, the level control lets you bring the whole instrument up or down to compensate for any changes you've made. For more information about BUTCH VIG drums and to check out the rest of the Play series, visit nativeinstruments.com for details.